Well, hey folks, this is Kevin Snyder with Right Way Publishing, and today we are talking to Jody Cleven, our new author of this amazing book that I just finished called A Ripple in Maggie Pond. So we're going to talk a little bit to Jody today to learn about her book, as well as just some interesting facts about the book and her life that I'm pretty confident people will be inspired by to want to learn more about. So Jody, hello.
Kevin.
So honored to spend a little bit of time with you. As I mentioned to folks just now, I did have the opportunity to read your book, and it took me to several spine tingles. It's a short book. It's about 100 pages. It's a 5x8. So what I love about this type of book is it allows people to not be intimidated by the size of it. I still have books on my bookshelf that are so thick, I'm not even sure if I'll ever get to. This book was amazing. The size doesn't sacrifice the quality in any capacity. So the fact that I know I could read this book in a couple hours or in a sitting or two, I loved it. So congratulations.
Great. Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about you. Like, where did the desire to become a published author, where did that kind of come from?
Yeah, so Kevin, I have been an educator my whole life, and people always say that teachers need to write it all down because kids truly do say the darndest things, and they truly do the darndest things. So any educator listening to me will say that is so true. So basically, right. Kevin, I did just that. I wrote what I knew and what I loved and what I lived. And when you're an educator in a really unique school and in a really unique small town, and by this I mean when the principal can turn on the PA and say, Jasmine, no last name, come meet me in the office, and everybody knows who Jasmine is, and Jasmine knows who she is. That's kind of how that school that I taught in and my children were in, how that rolls. So I put what I knew to print and drop some of those characters that really have a basis in true life into fiction, and it turned out really well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so much of your life I assumed I was reading in the book. So is a lot of this a personal kind of, you were influenced by kind of where you live now to write this book, and also kind of maybe how you grew up?
Absolutely. In fact, community members and friends that have read some advanced copies and initially read for me said, hey, that's my kid in that book, isn't it? And, you have to chuckle and say, well, it's a combination of all the kids that we know and love in this small town. Yeah. So there's a lot of me in that book, a lot of my children in that book, and a lot of the larger than life students that have come through my path in the years that I taught. There's a combination of all in our little small town, which is very endearing in that book. So absolutely.
Yeah. So give us a little teaser about the book. Tell us kind of conceptually what it's about, but don't give too much away because then people, it's like spoiler alert. Right. Tell us a little bit about A Ripple in Maggie Pond and how that came to be.
Yeah. So it is truly a book about friendship, and it's a book about perhaps a culture too, where kids, middle school kids who don't think they're anything alike, learn through a series of very exciting events that indeed we are all the same, and we have more similarities than we do have differences, and just some different worlds coming together. And that's a really neat part, but there's some very exciting events, and the title is called A Ripple in Maggie Pond. And as an educator, we always ask teachers to have their students make some predictions before they read a book. And if I were asked to ask our listeners here and our viewers here, what would your prediction be about what is a ripple in Maggie Pond? What does a ripple mean? Well, sometimes a ripple can mean a little trouble, a little problem. And it's very symbolic about where that title leads. So some big event does happen in what we call Maggie Pond in the book. And it's where the true friendship starts between some girls that, again, probably felt like their worlds were miles apart, but they came together in some really unique ways.
So people will need to read the book to know what the ripple was.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, any good story has multiple ripples. And so just about the time you're reading this book and you think, all right, it's got to end here. Oh no, it goes on. Because another thing is middle school kids, and this is written for grades 4 through 8, but adults tell me they love it, especially adults that have been educators or parents. But anybody who knows middle schoolers know that there is drama with middle schoolers, and there's a lot of middle school drama, but it's actually drama that we all relate to. And sometimes middle school drama really is real, and there's a statement in the book about that, but it's true. But again, how you come through those struggles and those ripples, that's what the book will share in a really fun way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned your readers, because this book, I think, spans really any age group. Many of the main characters are middle schoolers, and kind of how they've grown up in middle school together in a small community. But also, I mean, I read this and I related to it, but also it was entertaining and engaging and teachable even for me as an adult. And I've got my wife and I are expecting our first baby girl due in about a month. And there were portions of your book where literally I said to myself, I would love to read her this book. And not just read her this book once, but read her this book a few times as she's evolving and growing up in life. Because you have so many really good takeaway messages that are in, throughout your story. So the book, I think, can be read by anybody.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm having really great response from some adults in the community that have read it and beyond. So again, it's just it's that book about friendship and coming together, and about community too. And anybody who really has a great sense of community, the townspeople in this book the characters are really rich, and just this community of coming together as the town. There's so many parts that it's such a feeling when you think, wow, if I don't live in a community like that, I would love to, because it's really a part of America. And it's just really, that resonates with a lot of the adults.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So this is your first book, right? Correct? Your first
Absolutely.
book?
Not the first.
Okay.
It's not the first one I wrote. It's actually the second book I wrote, but the first one that I decided to launch. So.
Well, that's exciting. Good. So some of the viewers out there, some of them might be authors, and I would assume the majority of them are not, and maybe them are aspiring authors. What are some tips that you've learned through your journey of becoming now a published author that you would give to someone who's thought about maybe writing a book, or maybe they're actually in process of trying to finish writing it or even start writing it? What are some tips that you'd give a future author?
Yeah, so I would say one paragraph at a time. That's how you start a book. One sentence at a time, really, if that's what you are. So that's absolutely what I would say. And it's messy. It's a messy process. So I would say many times I wrote a sentence with lots of X's in it or lots of dashes that I knew, okay, I don't have the perfect word, but I'm going to get the sentence out, or I'm going to get half of the sentence out. And so when you go back, you think, oh, yeah, what was I thinking? Here's my word. Here's the rest of that sentence. So it's a messy process. And I would never let the fact that I have half a thought stop me. I would write half thoughts. I would write snippets and just keep adding to that as it grew and developed. I would also say that write what you know and write what you love. Especially in the first book, because you've got all this stuff in your head that you want to write down. So just get it out in a very messy process way. And then the organization, for me anyway, came later. So it was just getting the thoughts out on paper, even if they just didn't seem to make sense.
Right.
I would also suggest to any aspiring author to have lots of beta readers. There was a part of me that didn't want to share it because it was, this could be a flop, or what if they don't like the work the way I do? But the beta readers, their feedback was huge. And there were things that I never thought of that they shared with me about parts that didn't make sense to them or parts that were tricky. And the beta readers were invaluable to me. So although I kind of didn't want to put it out there until I thought it was finished, it was a wonderful way to get some really good feedback. Yeah.
That's great. So to kind of capture what you just said, because I think when we work with authors, we work with authors for a wide variety of where they're at. And I mean, this is such a intense process to write a book, to get it from your head out on paper and then to also refine it. I love what you said about kind of expecting to write your book in chunks and just, one word, one paragraph at a time. Right. And then also to not be afraid to let other people view it and read it and give you feedback.
Absolutely. That's invaluable. And just keep that pad of paper with you everywhere you go. I on the bank, I on a boat, I wrote on a ferry, I wrote driving, I wrote in the shower. Literally, when those thoughts come, you've got to get them down. So keep that iPad or that pad of paper with all time, because you never know when those thoughts are just going to flow. And when they start, don't stop, just go. So sometimes there'll be a block, as we all know about writer's block, and sometimes it'll just go. So that's my advice. Keep it going.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, and you're a success story because you've published a book now. So for anyone listening, or for those of people that are listening, I mean, take that advice seriously, take it to heart. I mean, you're in the 1% of people that ever have said they wanted to write a book that actually did it. Because there's so much that can get in.
Well, absolutely. And that brings me to my main point about why I wrote this book and why I finally launched it. And what the viewers need to know is it sat on my shelf for 10 years. And I knew it was a good story, but it sat there. And there was this fear again of, oh, nobody will like this except me. But then 10 years, fast forward 10 years, enter you, Kevin Schneider. I stumble upon your book, Think Differently, and I read it because I love books. And I read your book, and something in that said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but if you have a dream and it's on the shelf, take it off, dust it off, and make it happen. That's my paraphrasing of what I got from your book, Kevin. And I thought, I have a dream. It's sitting on the shelf. It's been sitting there 10 years, and it's got a lot of dust on it. But your book caused me to pull my book off the shelf, look at it and say, this is good. People need to hear this story. So I can't thank you enough for being the catalyst that helped me think differently and follow the dream. And so that's how the whole process started. And I cannot thank you enough for the support that you gave me in that and just the push that I needed to do that. So that's where I come full circle with your involvement in this. So it's absolutely excellent advice.
Yeah, it's nice how I think, whatever you want to call it, faith, the universe, just people's connection and energy. You never know who you meet. And you and I definitely have a couple overlapping connections. So the fact that you read my book, which gave you hope to finish your own. I struggled writing my book as well. I mean, I'm open about the struggles I had. In fact, my first book cost me thousands of dollars that I look back on, made a lot of mistakes. It was more frustrating than it was anything. And by the time I got my proof in the hand for my book, I was ready to be done with it. So, to kind of know that, hey, it's going to be a process, but it doesn't have to be painful if you're surrounded by people that can help you. And then really just help you get it done.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. That support is everything.
Right. So kind of maybe a final question or two for you would be, now that you're published, you want to share kind of any goals you have? Like what's next? Or what do you hope to achieve with the book?
Yeah, so we're taking it on the road. I've already been in a classroom where a teacher was reading it aloud, and I was amazed at the reaction of the kids. And so it's absolutely a fun thing for me to do. So I'm taking it on the road, visiting classrooms, visiting school libraries, reading this, having a launch party to officially launch next week. So that's exciting. But moving ahead, that first book that I wrote that I didn't think I liked as much as Maggie Pond, I've relooked at it and I like it just as much. And so that one is going to be ready to launch 2020. And spoiler alert, it is called A Ribbon on the Bow. So kind of the same, audience, it will resonate with the same type audience, but it's very different. So that's exciting. And then for the series lovers, I have got in my brain the beginning of a series book that's just going to be about a really neat group of friends that it's going to be set in a local country. So that's my spoiler alert. So 2 projects that I've got coming down the pike. So I've already had people ask me, when's the next one coming? So we're good with that.
Oh, that's great. Well, for those of you out there, let me show you once again. This is Jody's book, A Ripple in Maggie Pond, available as both a print book and an ebook, correct? So
correct.
You can go to Amazon to learn more about this book and purchase this book. And also, Jody, is there any way that folks can even connect with you or get in touch with you?
Yeah, so people have been emailing me at jodycleven.embarkmail.com. And I have been discussing the book with folks on jodycleven@embarkmail.com or on Facebook, A Ripple in Maggie Pond. So if you want to connect, those are 2 ways you can connect. Email me direct or Facebook. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Happy to engage. Yep.
Awesome. Congratulations to you, Jody, and thanks for spending a little bit of time with us. For those of you out there, thanks for tuning in. And if we can help you with your books as well, just give us a shout at Right Way Publishing. Take care.
All right. Do that. Make it happen. If it's a dream of yours, make it happen. Thank you, Kevin.
Take care. Thank you.